On 28 March, delegates to the Constituent Assembly were elected with the task awaiting them the writing of the 1995 Constitution. A key issue awaiting them was resolving the land question. In the 1880s, the British colonialists had altered for good the system of land ownership by introducing private land under either Crown land or mailo land. There was to be both official mailo, which was land handed to high-ranking personnel in Buganda, among them the Kabaka and chiefs, but for official use. Private mailo was the land handed to individuals in their capacity as well as religious institutions. Crown land was the other form of land that turned customary land across the country into public land administered by the governor on behalf of the British Crown.
My grandfather died believing he had land. He did not.
The state of the majority of the land being public continued until promulgation of the 1995 Constitution that reversed the status quo.
I could come to Nagongera and take 40,000 acres of land. The only thing I needed to do, which was fortified in the 1969 Public Lands Act and the rules made thereafter. As long as I could compensate you for the development you Japs have made on that land. The land was not yours.
The former Constituent Assembly delegates say they all agreed about changing the public land into private land.
We must resolve the land issue. Actually, the main issue that tilted my mind towards accepting to come, I saw it as a great opportunity to resolve the inequities which were brought by colonialism with regard to land.
The contentious issue was the way those who were saying land should belong to government. And those saying what? Where did the government get land in Iboloha village in Namaingo district? Eh? Where is it? Eh? Is my land there?
President Museveni is said to have been the major stumbling block against the land reform.
So it was contentious. That the consensus, of course, was not to put land in government. Much as the president appeared to have liked it so much, for land to go in government, for purposes of development. And it has persisted since then. It has always persisted, it has always come out.
At the end of it all, the reform sailed through.
And we succeeded in that. And by the stroke of a pen, on the 8th of October 1995, the rural lands in Tororo, the rural lands in anywhere, ceased to be public land. Yes, they ceased to be public land. They now remain what in the minds of the people they have always been.
This implies that every person has the right over land, provided it is legally under their possession, and not even the government can conduct forceful eviction from the property.
Later on I came to know why Museveni was not happy, because if all land belongs to the people, it means the government has no land. And the government needed land. It needed land for investments, it needed land for its own buildings, it needed land. But we had said all land belongs to the people. You know the constitution, when you make it, that's why a constitution has to be amended, but properly.
We are dealing with a very difficult problem of private ownership of land. Rwanda, where this doesn't exist, is doing very well. Even it's doing very well because government implements projects wherever it wants. It builds roads anytime. But here building a road in Buganda, particularly, is impossible.
The government has severally attempted in vain to table amendments to the Land Act to provide for the forceful acquisition of land and provide compensation afterward to pave way for the large projects, especially where there are contentions.
But President Museveni, as soon as he knew that I had left Parliament, he reinstated another law, 2010, Land Amendment Act. I am glad to note that the court has nullified the content of the land acquisition law because it is a forceful law which has no space in our land law as measured from the yardstick of Article 230(37) of the Constitution.
The 1995 Constitution created 4 forms of land ownership: customary land, mailo, leasehold, and freehold. Customary land means land owned by communities and is managed in accordance with their norms, and it is usually passed down through generations. Freehold means land owned in perpetuity, allowing the owner to use it in any form or sell it. Leasehold is a system guaranteeing ownership of land from 49 to 99 years in exchange of a rental payment. Mailo land is a system that accords individuals perpetual ownership of land as landlords and allows tenancy in form of freehold. But that was just one problem settled. They were yet to address the root cause of the rampant land evictions, mainly a characteristic of Mailo land.
And for me, I was going further and saying, you know what? This thing of Mailo land, Bibanja holders, you have a Mailo title, 3 square miles. You cannot even till 1 square inch of that land because it is occupied by Bibanja holders. You will die without tilling it. Your grandchildren, until the return of Jesus, will never till that, the Bibanja holders. If they have to pay you, they pay token. So for me, I say it. Let us use the 1995 Constitution to put provisions where we get rid of this thing called Bibanja in Buganda.
This is so because Mailo land is characterized by absentee landlords, an unknown expanse of the private Mailo, illegal conversion of the private Mailo from being clan-based into a family land, and the change of tenure by the tenants on Mailo land that turned around to claim permanent ownership.
A registered owner shall be deemed to be absent if the landlord has never been physically located or identified by the Bibanja holders, has never been physically located or identified by the Bibanja holders. 2, the landlord cannot be traced or located by the area local leaders.
Partly, this is the reason for multiple claims of ownership over the same pieces of land and gave an advantage to fraudsters to take advantage of the situation.
And one guy came out with a piece of paper and said, I was going through my father's papers and I came across this document. Is it any good? It's a small piece of paper. When I looked at it, it had about 2 square miles. It was still valid, but he didn't know. And so what the people in land office do is to look for this land, and when it is valuable, they find a buyer and sell it to him. And that buyer spends a lot of money, as much as $1 billion shillings, corrupting the system. Now, this kind of person wants to get his money back.
Titles that reflected occupants are no longer reflecting occupants. So when someone is buying land, they look at the title and it does not reflect that an encumbrance. So the person comes and evicts because he will show you that, you know, this is my title. It doesn't reflect that there are squatters here.
The corruption in the land office and inefficiencies is another factor. The position of Buganda is that instead of focusing on Mailo and its history, and because it's a Buganda issue as the source of the problem, it is a wrong approach.
Now, with the coming into force of the land information system, we're able to identify all these titles, and these titles are not in the system. These titles have been put out because you actually need now to explain to whoever have them, recall them with view of cancelling and keeping only the first one.
The former delegates to the Constituent Assembly said the solution they sought to address the challenge of the rampant land conflict was to provide for the creation of the Land Fund under Section 41 of the 1998 Land Act. They deemed that the Land Fund would address the historical land injustices through the management of government land and access to land by bona fide occupants. A bona fide occupant is a person without a title to a land occupied by them. No one challenged the status and must have occupied and used the land for 12 years or more before the 1995 Constitution came into force.
So Parliament, in its wisdom, had a solution for this. It created a land fund in the act and said government shall be putting money in this land fund which would be used to sort out that problem.
Get the funds, pay off the paper owner of the land, whatever the value of the papers are, and then enable now each of these Buganda holders to get a title which is in perpetuity. You can still maintain the name mailo, meaning you are a Buganda holder, now you have your mailo. You can call it freehold, you can call it whatever name. While for us, where there was no mailo, the only thing you need to do is take away public lands from lands of the ordinary person, restrict it to certain areas.
Why don't you sit with this mailo owner, negotiate with him the value of the Bibanja which is there, pay him the 200 million. So it's now government land, which now the government offers the Chibanja owner a freehold title. Then he owns in perpetuity. Then he's now at par with every other Ugandan, every other owner. You have solved the problem of evictions.
It was anticipated by the 1998 Land Act that monies for the land fund would be derived from monies appropriated by Parliament, loans obtained by the government and grants. The framers of the Constitution are dismayed by the decision to hold the land fund in 2017 after being in place for about 20 years. The closure was prompted by the lack of funds.
Now, that is 1997. It's 25 years. If government had just been putting 0.1% of its budget, of the national budget, in the land fund, that problem would have been resolved years ago. The problem is that government did not give effect to the intention of Parliament.
I'm not saying that when you abolish mailo, land conflicts will end. They will be greatly reduced. And what will end will be merely boundary issues, but not issues of evicting people whom you have never leased land to, who don't have an agreement with you, but people who have been perpetually on that land since time immemorial. But because you went to Kampala and bought a land title from a disgruntled grandson, then you want to evict them. That is the biggest problem.
In 2023, while at an event in Mityana, the Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Judith Nabakoba, committed the government to revive the land fund to stop the rampant evictions. It is a promise yet to be fulfilled.
Because we believe that maybe when land fund is capitalized, we will look at these landlords who have worked with government to map out the Bibanja people, because it's easier then to know which landlord has how many people, and it's easier even for valuation to be conducted than these who have totally refused.
From the look of things, it appears that it is possible to drastically bring down the cases of land conflicts or eliminate them greatly, but that's if the government takes up the initiative to effectively operationalize the land fund. Jackson Onyango, NTV.